Kev, we made it. Week 16 waivers and streams coming up. No more waiver shows after this. This is the last one. We're heading into the ship this week. We got Big D, DY already saying he's a championship game. He's ready. Got everything going on. Didn't have a lot of craziness today. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. But before we do, make sure you guys subscribe. First of all, you're only hurting yourself. All this lovely content coming at you. We have a bunch of Dynasty, a bunch of rookie, a bunch of NFL draft stuff lined up for you guys in the offseason. So this channel is going to continue plugging out content. But two, that right there, that Allen Robinson signed jersey, all you got to do is subscribe and you'll be entered to win. We're going to give that away next Sunday during the game day show that kicks off at 11 a.m. Eastern. So, Kev, why don't you just jump right into it? Let's talk about some of these quarterback streams for Week 16, and tell me who you like with the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main one is Jalen Hurts, right? Just absolutely crushed today. 338 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 11 carries, 63 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Good for good old 37 fantasy points and 4-point touchdown leagues for quarterbacks, and then also 43 and 6-point touchdown leagues. So he's only rostered in 38% of Yahoo leagues, which I thought was a little bit weird. But at the same time, I get it. A lot of people are out. But if he is somehow sitting out there, or you own him, and you didn't play him this week because you weren't really sure going against Arizona. They face the Cowboys this week, who have allowed the second most passing touchdowns and the 12th most fantasy points. Hurts now he also has 29 rushing attempts in the last 2 weeks. So he is a fucking locked in QB1 next week against these Cowboys. So I am looking forward to some Jalen Hurts next week, even though I guess Doug Peterson came out after the game and said, we'll announce tomorrow who the starter is. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, Doug. Okay. You're not going to all of a sudden go back to Carson Wentz after as well as Jalen Hurts played these last 2 weeks. Moving on from that, Mr. Trubisky, he played well again today. He didn't really have to do a whole lot because they were able to run the ball down the Vikings' throat, completed 15 of 21 passes for 202 yards, a touchdown, and an INT in a victory over the Vikings. However, this week they do get the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have the third most fantasy points to the position, 31st in pass DVOA, 24th in rush DVOA. So I love me some Mitchell Trubisky again next week. For people who maybe have been streaming the position, if your quarterback's facing a tough matchup next week that you roster right now, Mitch Trubisky does make some sense against Jacksonville. I put Matthew Stafford on here. I feel like he'd have to be a little desperate to go here, but he did play decent today, despite the fact that they got the doors blown off of him by the Titans. Completed 22 of 32 for 250 and a touchdown. He did exit in the fourth quarter, but I'm not sure if it's due to a re-aggravation of the rib injury that he already had, or it was due to the blowout loss. They didn't really say. But either way, the Lions take on the Bucs defense, who just got thrashed for 356 and 3 against the Falcons today. So I do think, if he's sitting out there and you're really desperate for a quarterback, I think you could do that. They play on Saturday. And then I put Marcus Mariota on here. Like, I don't really feel great about it. They're playing Miami, 17 of 28 for 226 and 9 carries for 88 yards. He does have that dual threat ability of getting out of the pocket and picking up yards on the ground. But this is a really good defense for Marcus Mariota. And then Drew Lock, bottom of the barrel. He's very hit or miss. He can have some big games, but the Chargers defense has been pretty susceptible. So that's kind of where I'm at. For me, it's Jalen Hurts, Mitchell Trubisky, maybe Matt Stafford, and then probably just roll with what you got.
Before I jump over to tight end, we do have an interesting question while we are here and talking about Jalen Hurts. Our guy Xenon is in the chat and wants to know Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts next week. The Ravens get the Giants.
I think it's still really early, and I have to kind of start looking into everything. But as of right now, I'd probably go with Jalen Hurts, just because he's going to offer you pretty much the same upside as what Lamar is. But Jalen Hurts as a passer has been excellent. As well. Like, it's not even just that he's been his ability to pick up yards on the ground. He has been slinging the rock, and then against a matchup against Dallas is a much better matchup than what you'd get against the Giants. The Giants defense has been playing pretty well, so it's going to be tough for me to want to sit Jalen Hurts, but that is close. It's still Lamar Jackson. He's still obviously a stud in his own right, but as of right now, I would slightly lean Jalen Hurts, but I may change my mind. I would just say, Xenon, come back and ask me on Wednesday, or check out our Tuesday show whenever we do our start sits.
Fasal is in the chat. Jalen Hurts or Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers. They're playing the Titans next weekend, and as we know, the Titans defense is absolutely horrendous. So that's another one of those. I would go Aaron Rodgers in that matchup.
I really liked Hurts this week obviously as a streaming option. You had him as a QB2. That was the range I had him in. I just wasn't sure what his passing ceiling was going to be. And then he goes out and throws up 338 yards. And the crazy thing about that is none of his receiving options had more than 70 yards receiving, which is kind of wild to see. So we're going to go ahead and move it on to the streaming tight ends for Week 16. And the list is pretty barren, but so are the tight end options. So my clear top one here that I have, the space kind of represents a teardrop here. My top streaming option for the week is going to be Jordan Akins, with guys like Logan Thomas, who's now rostered in over 50% of leagues. Jordan Akins still widely available. The Texans are going to get Cincy. Bengals are giving up the third most fantasy points per game to tight ends heading into Week 15. Akins has had 6 targets in back-to-back weeks, and if you kind of pan out a little bit, he has hit 6 targets in 3 of his last 5 games overall. So I like Akins in this spot. Dalton Schultz still sitting out here, but the really crazy thing with him, I've never seen this with any other player, and it's obviously coincidence. I don't think there's anything that's that has been done on purpose. But if you go back to Week 8, Dalton Schultz targets has dropped by 1, literally just 1 target every single week since then, starting at 8. So obviously 7, 6, and then now he's all the way down to 2 this week. The Eagles have given up double-digit fantasy points to tight ends in 2 of the last 3 weeks. But like I said, Schultz's tight end, his target numbers have been dropping. Maybe they open up a little bit if Michael Gallup is forced to miss this week. He left the game early. And then if you're desperate, I think you can give Tyler Eifert a look, as someone who Kev mentioned a couple weeks ago, and he's kind of been popping off. In 2 of his last 3 games, he does have lines of 6 for 45 and 3 for 51, and they're going to get Chicago coming up in Week 16, and they've given up the 5th most points per game to the tight end position. So I think we can go ahead and roll over right to running backs. Kev, you got RBs. Who are your top pads here for Week 16?
Yeah, this is kind of the cream of the crop here for this week anyway. Now, depending on if these guys are actually available is another story, but I kind of broke these up into two different situations here. I put Le'Veon Bell because obviously Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he may be done for the year. His x-ray was negative, but that doesn't really matter. They said it's a left leg / hip injury. It did not look good. He had to be basically carried off the field by trainers. And I'm not exactly sure what the injury is. They haven't given a whole lot of information on it other than that he's going to be going under MRIs tomorrow. So we'll find out more about that. But that puts Le'Veon Bell as a lead back in this offense. They are playing the Atlanta Falcons. And the only way that he doesn't see a big role here is there is a scenario that if the Steelers were to somehow lose to the Bengals, which I do not think is going to happen, then the Chiefs would lock up the home field advantage, and Week 16 would be absolutely meaningless for them. Week 16 and Week 17 because they would lock up the number 1 seed, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I do think that they're going to play. So Le'Veon Bell is only rostered in like 52% of ESPN leagues and 52% of Yahoo, 58% of ESPN leagues. Right, he rushed 15 times for 62 yards and a touchdown today. 1 reception for 14 yards. So the Falcons have actually been really good against the run. They're 4th in rush DVOA, but they're 20th in pass DVOA. But as we know, with Le'Veon Bell being in this offense is obviously a big boost. Plus the fact of his pass catching upside as well. So without Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you look at probably Darrell Williams, the number 2 running back, who will see touches in this backfield because they do kind of run a little bit of a committee here. But if Le'Veon Bell is somehow out there, or you own him, he becomes a really solid high-end RB2 this week against Atlanta. Tony Pollard, we had this all happen on the game day show today. We kind of basically were telling everybody he should probably play him in most situations, and that was correct because he rushed 12 times for 69 yards, nice, and 2 scores, and added 6 receptions for 63 yards and a really tough matchup against the San Francisco defense. But he really played really well today. We'll have to monitor the situation with Zeke. If Zeke is out, then I think Pollard makes for a high-end RB2, low-end RB1 next week, even against Philly. So his pass catching upside, like, I'm not going to lie, like, he's looked way better than what Ezekiel Elliott has looked in weeks since a long time. And maybe we'll find out that Zeke has been dealing with a lot of injuries, and that's why he hasn't looked right. But I don't know. Like, I don't know how if you are Dallas, just shut him down. You're out of it. You're not going anywhere. Just shut Zeke down and let Tony Pollard cook, right? So I hope that's what happens, because I do think that he makes for a solid play next week. But he is still only rostered in 21% of ESPN leagues and Yahoo leagues, which I was surprised that it didn't go up higher than that. But I get a lot of people are out of it. So if Tony Pollard's available, I would be rushing to get him if you did somehow not add him today. If you do have him, you're likely going to be playing him no matter what. And then Jeff Wilson, 16 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. Took over as the lead back because, surprise, surprise, Raheem Mostert left with an ankle injury to start the second half. And Wilson will see a Cardinals defense that ranks 15th in rush DVOA this week. So he's rostered in 51% of leagues. If he's sitting out there, I think he should be worth a look. The other guys I put on here, if any of you are in keeper leagues, this is a really good time to kind of go through your free agency and kind of see who's out there. So that's why I put these guys on the list. Aaron Jones could leave via free agency. James Conner's a free agent. Chris Carson's a free agent. I put Marlon Mack on here because he's likely available everywhere. Depending on where he would sign, maybe he has an opportunity. These are just guys, Darius Guice. I know he's even out of the league, but you never know if nothing comes of his situation and somehow he gets it back in the league. Just as a keeper league, you're down to the last week. All these guys you have on your bench, you might as well get rid of and just add some speculative ads. Even guys, I'm not doing wide receiver. You are, but like Denzel Mims comes to mind as somebody that you may want to roster. Guys like that have upside for next year. If you are in a keeper league, you should be loading your bench with just in case, because if we head into next year and Aaron Jones leaves and they spend a high draft capital pick on A.J. Dillon has a very good shot at being the starting running back next year, especially because Jamal Williams is also a free agent. So he would be the lead back there in an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. So those are some guys that I think that you should at least be looking to roster in the event that maybe these guys' values skyrocket and you already have them on your team and you could use them as a keeper heading into next year.
Yeah, I'll try and throw some other wide receiver options in here for keepers at the end. Wide receiver a little bit thin again if you're looking at waiver options for Week 16. Top play here is obviously going to be Manuel Sanders with Michael Thomas heading to IR. Going to be done for at least for the regular season. He kind of is sitting there on that fringe in terms of his availability. He is sitting at I think it was 48% ownership in ESPN leagues. But this week, in this game against Kev's KC Chiefs, he did lead in catches and yards, and he was tied with Cook for targets for second on the team with 5. And I think the lead was 6 for that team. So I think he's somebody who definitely needs to be rostered. Then going on down the list, John Brown, Kiki Cody. John Brown was clear to begin to practice last week, but he was not taken off of IR. So he's still sitting there. I would assume if he was cleared, they kind of made it seem like it was just a conditioning issue from missing the past 3 weeks. So he's somebody who I'd definitely be looking to add. They're going to be going up against the Patriots. Patriots might be without Stephon Gilmore. He left the game early. You're going to have to keep an eye on that. But even whether or not Gilmore plays, that we've always looked at the Patriots as they're going to try and take out your best weapon. That's clearly Stephon Diggs, and that is someone who I was clearly wrong about, but that's a different story for a different day. So we saw what John Brown was able to do whenever he was healthy, and what Josh Allen has just continued to do all year, and that's just sling the rock all the way around the field. Kiki Cudi, he didn't have the blow-up game that some were, kind of expecting and speculating against the Colts, considering what he's done to them in his short career. Still went 5 for 53 and 1, and they get the Bengals. Enough said on him. And then if you're looking for some high upside, low floor kind of plays, I think you can look to guys like Alan Lazard, Sammy Watkins, Rashard Higgins, all going to be in good spots. Marquez Valdez-Scantling as well. Obviously, he's still widely available. Kev, you already touched on it. The Packers get Tennessee. The Chiefs are going to be going up against Atlanta, and then the Browns get the Jets. And then if you're in a deeper league and you need somebody to add, Lynn Bowden is still out there and pretty available, and he gets the not sure if we've ever seen this revenge game before, but going up against the Raiders, he gets the they drafted me and traded me before I could even play a game, revenge game. So he's someone who I think you can add, and he led the team. He led Miami with 7 targets this week. So I think he's someone who could be worth a look. In terms of wide receivers that you could look to add for keeper leagues, I mean, obviously you're looking at guys like, Jalen Reagor still sitting here in ESPN leagues, less than 16% owned. Laviska Shenault, got to assume they take care of the quarterback position in the draft. He's pretty widely available in ESPN leagues. You already touched on Denzel Mims. He was the first one that came to mind, whatever they end up doing. KJ Hamler, still pretty widely available, only rostered in 7% of ESPN leagues. Again, another team that we're probably expecting them to do something at the quarterback position, whether that's John Elway going out and trying to get a free agent to come in or going at that through the draft. They obviously have the pieces to go there. And then I would just look around and kind of see guys that have been, either dropped because of early injuries. Someone like a Paris Campbell, widely available. Preston Williams still sitting out there after his injury. Those are guys, Brian Edwards, Devin Duvernay. Just look at some of the younger guys who have upside, depending on what your keeper situation is and how deep those rosters go. So those would be some of the names that came to mind for myself. Looks like we have a couple of questions to get to here, and we'll try and bang these out. Let's see who we got here. Xenon was kind of he had Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts, but he also said Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield next week. Like I said, Cleveland gets the Jets.
Yeah, I'm not sitting Lamar for Baker. The only guy he has that I would consider it for would be Jalen Hurts.
But Sal, can I afford to start DK against the Rams?
Yeah, you have to. He is. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I can't imagine he has anybody else sitting on his roster that has the upside that DK has. I know. I don't think DK did much in that first matchup, if I'm remembering correctly. And obviously had a disappointing game today against Washington, but I would just be absolutely sick and beside myself if I sat DK in a championship matchup. Then he goes out there and goes for $170 and 2, which is well within his range of outcomes. And I can't imagine you have anybody else on your roster you're going to be sitting him for that has that kind of upside. Mark Pedri wants to know Tanny or Herbert next week. Obviously, Tanny gets the Packers and Herbert gets the Broncos.
That's pretty close. Right now, I'd probably go Herbert, but I don't know. That's another question mark that I would say come back on Tuesday or Wednesday and find out. Or I should say Wednesday probably. On Wednesday and find out, because I haven't really dug in enough to figure out where. But that's pretty close. Both of them, obviously, Tannehill smashed today against the Lions, and this is the Packers defense, certainly a defense you can throw upon, and it's probably going to be a game that they're going to have to throw the ball, obviously, and so I do think that he makes a little bit more sense. But Justin Herbert also gets that Denver defense that is missing their entire secondary. So
yeah, we'll have to dig into that a little bit further. Do we think CMC will play next week?
I'm going to say no. I would plan on no. There's just no real reason anymore, I think, for them to play him, right?
Yeah.
So, but you never know. I know that he's had optimism about trying to return. We'll see. I would put it at a 40% chance that maybe that's probably too high. Probably a 30% chance that he plays.
And then just quick thoughts on Akers, Hunt, and Dobbins. Obviously, Akers gets the Seahawks. Dobbins gets the Giants. And then Hunt gets the Jets.
I mean, right now I'd probably go Akers and Hunt, but again, I haven't really thought. No, I'd probably go Akers and Dobbins, but I mean, again, I just really have to dig into everything first.
That's how I would lean right now as well. I would have it Akers, Dobbins, Hunt is how I would rank those three if CMC doesn't play. And then Walito wants to know, how about that David Montgomery, James Robinson bet?
I feel great, actually. It's been a great day. The Chiefs took care of business and beat the Saints like we all thought we would. Even though Walito, I think, was a little drunk on Saturday night saying how the Saints are going to shut everybody down and they're just going to blow them out and blah, blah, blah. Get out of here with that, bro. Okay, we're 13-1. About to lock up. Where are you guys at? You guys even going to win the division at this point? Because the Bucs are right there on your heels. So just saying, I don't care that I lost bet because you know what? The funny thing about that bet is that every question that it was, I still said went Montgomery, and that so I still made the right call. I don't really care. James Robinson, league winner, and the poor guy got hurt today. Okay, you're really gonna dance all over his grave whenever the man gets hurt? Is that kind of person you are, Walito? Get out of here with that.
That does seem like a Walito kind of thing to do. With that said, guys,
winner. That's what
we're gonna go.
Bobby, get the fuck out of here. Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a great week.